When a struggling mom texts a billionaire for baby formula cash, the shocking truth will haunt you. The sun had barely risen over the cracked sidewalks of Milltown, yet Marissa's heart raced like it was noon. She was out of options, and desperation clung to her like a shroud. Baby Oliver cried in the background, his little lungs pushing out raw, frantic sounds as he demanded what only she could provide. She fumbled with her phone, hands shaking, stomach tight with anxiety. A text that felt like a last resort. Send it, don't send it. A billionaire's number etched in her mind and nowhere else. The moment she hit send, a shiver rushed through her. This wasn't just an act of desperation, it was a plea that could change everything. The message blinked back at her, a lifeline made of pixels: I need help. A little cash for baby formula wouldn't hurt. Raw fear and hope collided within her. She could already hear the judgment of the world ringing in her ears, a clamor of disbelief and disapproval from neighbors who thought they knew her story, but she knew something they didn't. Whispers floated around her about Jasper Winslow, the untouchable billionaire. He roamed in and out of town, always shrouded in scandal and secrecy. Some said he had a heart of gold buried under layers of cold steel. Others knew he was ruthless. What would a man like him think of a struggling mother reaching out for help? Just as she took a breath, her phone vibrated, jolting her heart. She couldn't look. The room swirled. Was it him? Was it a rejection? She could barely cope with the thought that it might just be silence, the cruelest of answers. Could he possibly care? And why did she even think he'd respond? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The buzz grew louder, and against her better judgment, she opened the message. What do you need, Marissa? It was short, clipped. She felt like she'd tumbled down a rabbit hole. There was something in the simplicity of his words that unnerved her, struck her with unease. In moments, she was back to panicking. Was she ready to bare her soul? The shadows deepened, surrounding her as the weight of their reality loomed. What if she revealed everything: the missed bills, the empty fridge, the nights spent tossing in sorrowful regret? What if he didn't just give her cash? What if he asked why she needed it? The silent scream in her chest begged for a way out, but there was no escape. Marissa took a shaky breath, fingers hovering over her screen. Would she dare to reveal? Would she take the plunge into the unknown? A bead of sweat traced her brow as she pondered what awaited her if she did. Moments passed painfully as she felt the tension lay thick in the air. Who was he really? What truth was lurking beneath that polished veneer? With pulse pounding, she typed, I just need a little help for baby formula. As the words appeared on her screen, Marissa's finger hovered over the send button, uncertainty weighing heavily in the air. Her breath hitched, a shiver running down her spine. Would he judge her? Would he cast her aside like the rest of the world? A million what-ifs darted through her mind, turning hope into trepidation as she steeled herself for the fallout, but this was no time for doubt. Baby Oliver's cries grew louder, unyielding and primal. Each wail pierced her heart, reminding her of the urgency that fueled her decision. She pressed send before she could talk herself out of it. The screen glowed back at her, an eternity condensed into a blink as she waited. Any second now, she thought. But the seconds stretched into minutes, each tick of the clock tightening the coil of her anxiety. Around her walls, the paint peeled, mirroring the malaise that had settled in their life. Each noise echoed louder, the creak of floorboards, the muffled sound of traffic outside, and Oliver's desperate cries constant reminders that time was running out. Then came the reply, jolting her back into the moment. Meet me at Milltown Park in 30 minutes, it read. Panic surged through her, heat creeping into her cheeks. Why there? What was he planning? Marissa felt as if she were teetering on the edge of a cliff. She needed this money, but how far would she have to go to get it? Milltown Park wasn't far, a quick walk, but it felt like an expedition into the unknown, a trek into a wild forest among bears and shadowy creatures. With a final glance at her baby, nestled in the tattered blanket on the floor, she grabbed her coat and stepped into the cool morning air. The bite of the wind stung her cheeks, invigorating her as she navigated the few blocks to the park. The town was mostly quiet, save for the twittering birds and the murmur of a few early joggers. She felt exposed, eyes boring into her as she moved with purpose, her thoughts swirling. What if he brought a crowd? What if this was all a mistake? Marissa's stomach twisted with each step. An image of Jasper Winslow flickered in her mind, tall, imposing, his expensive suits brushing the knees of his tailored trousers. She had to meet the billionaire, but what would that mean for her? The park came into view. Dew glistened on the grass, the air fragrant with the sweetness of spring blooms. Her heart raced as she scanned for him, a knot of anticipation and fear tightening within her. And then she saw him. Standing by the fountain, tall and striking, with deep brown eyes that seemed to cut right through the facade she wore. He was talking to a woman she didn't recognize, laughter rippling between them like a sweet serenade. Just as she opened her mouth to call out, the laughter subsided, and Jasper turned, his gaze piercing right through her. She froze. Was this a mistake? Before she could ponder further, he stepped away from the woman, striding purposefully toward her. The moment felt electric, charged with implications that neither of them had spoken. The world around them faded, and all that mattered was this awkward, volatile interaction about to unfold. Marissa could still back out. Maybe. But she was already standing there, on the edge. Jasper smiled, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Marissa, he said, his voice deep and smooth. I hope you don't mind me saying, but you look troubled. What's really going on? And just like that, she felt the weight of every unsaid word settle between them. Would she be brave enough to unveil everything? To reveal her truth to this man who offered a glimmer of salvation? With one breath, her controlled facade began to crack, inching closer to a revelation that could change everything. As she opened her mouth to speak, Oliver's cries rang in her ears, a reminder of why she was here. But the truth she was about to spill could change her life forever, and she didn't know if she was ready for it. What would she decide? And would her choice ultimately haunt her? Marissa swallowed hard, her throat tightening as Jasper's eyes bore into hers. He seemed to read her every internal struggle, and that only intensified her fear. She had to maintain some composure, but the words stuck in her throat like cotton. I need help, she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. As soon as she said it, she felt a twinge of vulnerability wash over her. What did it even mean to ask for help? She had always prided herself on her independence. Jasper's expression shifted slightly, his brow knitting together as if he could sense the desperation behind her words. What kind of help? He asked, a hint of concern in his tone. Marissa hesitated again, the reality of her situation crashing down on her like a wave. My baby, I can't afford formula. I thought maybe she trailed off, guilt flooding her. How could she be here, begging for money from a man she barely knew? Money is rarely the issue, Marissa, Jasper said coolly, his gaze unwavering. It's the willingness to accept what comes after. Her heart raced. What did he mean by that? It felt like a veiled threat, or maybe a warning. Would her asking for help come with strings attached? Suddenly, the laughter of the woman at the fountain cut through their charged encounter, turning Marissa's attention toward her. She looked carefree, radiant even, wearing a loose dress that danced with the breeze. The contrast between her and Marissa's turmoil made the world feel impossibly vast and isolating. The woman noticed them and waved, giving Jasper a soft smile that twisted in Marissa's gut like a knife. Just breathe, Jasper said, his tone softening for a moment. Tell me what you need. Just be honest. In that moment, Marissa's thoughts raced. Was she ready for whatever his help required in return? Would it mean sacrificing her dignity, complicating her fragile life? Did she even have a choice? She hesitated again, but the echoes of Oliver's cries flooded her mind. I need a couple $100. Just to get by this month. If I can get that, I can. I can manage. A slight grimace crossed Jasper's face, and she sensed the distance returning. And what will you offer in exchange? He asked, making no effort to hide his skepticism. It felt as though each word she spoke was a thread unraveling from her carefully constructed life. I don't want to offer anything, Marissa blurted out, panic surfacing. I just want to take care of my son. Isn't that enough? Jasper remained silent, his eyes scanning her face, searching for something. Most things in life come at a cost, he finally replied, his voice steady yet chilling. The playful wind in the park felt cruel as it danced around them. Marissa felt exposed, her heart racing as she began to consider how far she was willing to go, how much she could afford to sacrifice not just for herself but for her son. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her mother, demanding answers about Oliver's well-being. The familiar dread pooled in her chest, mixing with the uncertainty of this meeting. Would she dare put herself in a position to owe this man anything? Was there even an option left to refuse? I think you should leave, she said after a beat, her voice shaking. I don't want anything if it means something like this. The tension hung thick in the air, a silent confrontation playing out between them. The woman at the fountain watched with curiosity, drawn into their drama, while Marissa felt tethered between desperation and moral ground. Think it over, Jasper said, his voice dropping low, almost conspiratorial. This opportunity won't last forever. As he turned to leave, the reality of her decision loomed large, and the weight of her choice pressed down heavily on her chest. Would she betray her values for a chance at survival? Marissa stood frozen, feeling the world shatter into fractured pieces around her. As she clutched her phone tightly, she knew one question loomed larger than all the rest. What was she about to lose for the sake of a promise or gain at the price of her soul? Her gaze flickered back to the fountain, where the laughter carried on merrily, and panic surged anew. Would she play the game, or toss everything to fate? The moment shattered when the laugh of the woman turned into a shriek, drawing Marissa's attention. In an instant, a figure bolted past, shoving the unsuspecting woman aside as they dashed away, clutching something dark and glimmering that rolled on the grass. Stop! Jasper shouted, a sudden urgency replacing his calm demeanor. Marissa's heart plummeted as the chaos erupted around her. What was happening? And how entwined was she in this mess? The game had only just begun. Marissa's breath hitched as she watched the figure sprint away, a blur of motion against the serene backdrop of the park. The woman, now on the ground, gasped in shock, her eyes wide, confusion etched into her features. Are you okay? Marissa called, her heart racing. But the woman didn't respond, her gaze fixed on the shadowy figure disappearing into the distance. The laughter that moments ago had brightened the day now morphed into a chilling memory, tension tightening around Marissa's chest like a vice. Call someone. Jasper barked, snapping Marissa back into the moment. He quickly knelt beside the woman, who seemed shaken but was trying to collect herself. The glint of something metallic caught Marissa's eye there. Just past the fountain, lay a silver bracelet. It shimmered under the sunlight, abandoned, like the moments of normalcy she craved. A scream of sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder, and Marissa instinctively pulled out her phone. She had half a mind to text her mother back, to ask for advice or maybe just comfort, but instead, she switched to the emergency services app, terrified that she might be too late. What if that woman needed real help? Jasper hovered near the woman, clenching his jaw. You need to go after him, he urged, his voice tinged with urgency. He's heading toward the parking lot. Marissa swallowed, fear swelling in her throat. But what can I do? Just do it. He snapped, sheer determination radiating from him. Nervous adrenaline surged, and she took off, her legs moving before her mind could catch up. The playground blurred past as chaotic thoughts spun in her head. What motivated this person? The theft had been bold, almost reckless, and it echoed familiar patterns of desperation she felt every day. She burst out of the park and into the busier street, scanning for any sign of the figure. The sun beat down on her, harsh and unforgiving. "What are you doing?" she muttered to herself, fighting the instinct to turn back. Ahead, a shout broke through the noise of the city, a man's voice trembling with anger. "Get back here." Marissa veered sharply, her heart pounding faster at the sight of the disheveled figure running into an alley, cutting between buildings. Why was she chasing after this? Questions clawed at her mind. Was it fear, curiosity, or some twisted sense of justice? She pushed herself harder, weaving in and out of startled pedestrians. Somehow, she caught a glimpse of the dark figure slipping into an open gate leading to a narrow courtyard. Jasper's words echoed in her ears. She had to know. Doubt swirled like fog around her thoughts. Was she really prepared to confront this thief? What if this person was dangerous? But Oliver's cries, amplified in her mind, pushed her onward. Marissa squeezed through the gate, the cool air awakening her senses. There was no way to turn back now. The alley was shadowed and narrow, each step amplifying her resolve and fear. "Stop!" she called, hoping to startle whoever it was into submission. Silence wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. In the distance, a door slammed, echoing ominously. Marissa hesitated, leaning against the rough brick wall. Where had they gone? Suddenly, a small thud rang out, and her heart jumped. She crouched low, peeking around the corner. The figure stood with their back to her, rummaging through a pile of discarded items. Marissa inhaled sharply, uncertainty mingling with resolve. Should she confront them? What if it turned violent? But Oliver needed that formula. She was driven by a fierce protectiveness, a primal instinct that sparked action. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice trembling but louder now. The figure turned slowly, and as the shadows shifted, Marissa felt a jolt of recognition. It couldn't be what had she stumbled into. The stakes were higher than she'd ever imagined. How was this person connected to her life, to Jasper, to everything? As the truth began to unfold, Marissa knew she was at a precipice. Would she step forward into the unknown, or turn back to safety? Each choice could alter everything. "Marissa?" The voice broke through the fog of confusion, cutting through her thoughts like a knife. It was familiar, tinged with disbelief and a flicker of hope, yet laced with an undercurrent of danger. The figure stepped into the dusky light, and her heart froze. "No way," she breathed, her mind racing. "You can't be." The figure was Parker Fisher, the guy from high school, the one who used to charm everyone with that killer smile. But it was different now. The magnetic charisma was dulled by layers of desperation and neglect, shadows lurking beneath his sunken eyes. The last time she had seen him, he had been a carefree athlete. Now he looked haggard, worn down by life's harsh realities. "Marissa?" He took a hesitant step forward, his hands still busy rummaging through tattered bags at his feet. "You have no idea how good it is to see you. What the hell are you doing?" The words slipped out before she could filter them. A wave of anger washed over her as she struggled to process the chaos in front of her. The thrill of the chase faded, replaced by a sickening churn in her stomach. "Just looking for something." He cast a glance over his shoulder, a flicker of paranoia shading his expression, as if he expected someone to pounce at any moment. "I'm in a bit of trouble, okay? It's not what it looks like. You're rummaging through the trash." Her voice reverberated against the brick walls. "You just stole from that woman." "I didn't steal anything," he snapped, defensiveness spiking as he plunged deeper into the bags, pulling out an assortment of broken things: a shattered picture frame, a crumpled sandwich wrapper, but nothing Marissa could process as valuable. "I'm trying to find something for my kid. You have to believe me." The mention of a kid forced Marissa to reconsider. She needed no further evidence of desperation to realize all of her preconceptions about Parker were crumbling. This was a different man standing before her, carved by rejection and tribulation. The tightness in her chest ached with a blend of sympathy and confusion. "What happened to you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, letting the weight of silence hang in the air. "It's a long story, one that wouldn't matter to you," he murmured bitterly. "Try me," she insisted, stepping closer, her resolve shifting. "I might understand more than you think." Parker's eyes darted, unable to settle, yet deeply troubled. I messed up, Marissa. Life happened fast. I wasn't ready. And now, Olivia, he trailed off, pain etched across his features. I can't be that dad. I need to find stuff that she needs. Formula, clothes, anything. Marissa's instinct kicked in. You could ask for help. You don't have to steal. I can't. He spat, anger flaring, drowning his sorrow. This isn't a petty theft. I thought I was doing okay, but his voice broke, raw vulnerability cracking through his bravado. As moments stretched into eternity, Marissa was torn between the urge to protect the woman Parker had stolen from and the knowledge that she couldn't ignore the humanity staring back at her. How much had this guy suffered? How deeply had he sunk? Maybe wait, she hesitated. I can help you, but you need to stop running. The tension was thick, both an invitation and a warning hanging in the air. She could feel the pulse of the city beyond their breathing, life buzzing around them, unaware of the pivotal moment unfolding in this alley. And yet, what would that look like? A partnership with someone from her past who crumbled into desperation? Do you know how? He whispered, hope flickering like a flame in the darkness. Suddenly, the sound of distant sirens spiked her adrenaline again. The world around them closed in, and her careful decision teetered on a razor's edge. A flicker of movement in the shadows drew her attention, and Marissa spun around, her pulse racing. Someone's coming, she hissed, panic overtaking her calm. Before she could react, Parker was gone, slipping into the deepening gloom of the alley, as the figure emerged, a hulking silhouette that made her catch her breath. Who's there? She called out, back pressed against the wall, heart thudding against her chest. Fear surged, propelling her to follow Parker into the murky unknown. She was chasing truth, but what lurked within shadows might not just be secrets from high school. Was she ready for what lay ahead? A chill swept through her, and the uncertainty clung to her skin. The moment had come, and she had a choice to make again. What other revelations awaited her on this dark path? The silhouette loomed larger as it stepped into the flickering light, revealing a figure clad in a long, dark coat. Marissa's breath caught in her throat. The way the man moved was unnaturally calculated, each step slow and deliberate. Instinctively, she wanted to retreat further into the shadows, but her feet felt glued to the ground. Looking for someone? He called out, his voice deep and gravelly, eyes narrowing with a hint of curiosity. No, she stammered, forcing herself to step out into the light, born of a sudden, reckless urge to confront whatever dark energy loomed before her. Who are you? The man chuckled, but it was a sound devoid of humor, layered with something more sinister. Just a concerned citizen making sure bad things don't happen in my neighborhood. Marissa's heart raced. You're not from around here, are you? Smart girl, he said, his grin revealing too many teeth for comfort. You're either very brave or very stupid to be in this part of town alone. There was an edge of warning in his tone that made the hairs on her neck stand up. She couldn't shake the feeling that everything Parker's sudden appearance, the ongoing panic, the sound of sirens fading in the distance was intertwined in ways she could hardly fathom. I'm just looking for someone, she managed, the words feeling weak even as they left her mouth. Is that right? And who would that be, sweetheart? He stepped closer, invading her space, and suddenly, the alley felt smaller, darker. Adrenaline began to pulse under her skin. I am looking for Parker, she blurted, the name heavy in the air between them. His features shifted, a flicker of recognition mixed with something darker, like the flash of a storm cloud rolling across the horizon. Parker Fisher? So sweet of you to come searching for him. But really, darling, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Fear knotted in her stomach as she thought about Parker's desperate need, yet the anger rushed in behind it, telling her that she couldn't back down now. He needs help. Why are you even involved? The man leaned closer, the scent of sweat and something metallic gagging her. See that? It's a pain in my side when lost souls wander into the wrong hands. He's a sinking ship, and I'm not looking to go down with him. Before she could respond, the clatter of a nearby dumpster echoed, breaking the conversation. It was enough of a distraction for her to glance back, and in that moment, the hulking man shoved a cell phone into her hands, his eyes locking onto hers. "Keep this," he commanded. The truth is but a sharp sound cut through the air, a metallic thud followed by something hitting the ground. Marissa turned again, dread racing through her. Parker stood at the mouth of the alley, panting, eyes wide. "Marissa, don't!" he shouted, stumbling into view. Panic radiated from him like a heat wave, and the sight sent a shiver down her spine. "What did they do to you?" Marissa cried out, reflexively moving closer to him, wanting to offer solace amidst the chaos, but the man laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that filled the narrow space. "Oh, but you don't know the half of it, do you? Just wait until the truth comes to light." Marissa's pulse thudded in her ears as she studied Parker, the shadows of his past now calling back to her. His hand trembled as he reached for her, fury igniting in his eyes. "Don't listen to him, Marissa. Get out of here." "It's a setup," the man chuckled again, his expression shifting to one of delight. "Setups can be enlightening." What was she standing in the middle of? Fear coiled tightly around her heart, and uncertainty flooded over everything, deep like a well. She felt the gravity of the situation pulling her under, torn between two worlds: Parker's desperation and the man's threat. "Marissa." Parker's voice broke through, desperate and raw. She turned to him, searching for the truth in his wild eyes, but all she saw was terror, and the urge to protect him surged stronger than her fear. From the corner of her vision, movement caught her eye, a flash as the hulking figure stepped closer. And just when she thought she understood the stakes, the tension snapped. The sirens were back, drowning everything out. "What are you really hiding?" she shouted, stepping into the fray. But before the answer could materialize, a loud crash echoed as the alley was filled with blue and red lights. And just like that, the world around her erupted into chaos. What was going to happen next with the authorities closing in? Would the threads tying this moment together unravel before her eyes? The strobe of police lights bathed the alley in an eerie glow as uniformed officers flooded in, their commands slicing through the tense air. Marissa felt her heart drop, caught like a deer in headlights. Everything had spiraled out of control. "Get back. Everyone stand back." An officer barked, pushing people away from the scene, including Parker. He grabbed for Marissa, but she instinctively took a step back, the chaos consuming them. "Marissa!" Parker yelled again, eyes ablaze with desperation. "Don't let them take you." But before she could reply, the man in the dark coat melted into the murky shadows, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. His laughter echoed, faint but chilling. "Enjoy the show," he called teasingly. Marissa's breath quickened as she spun around to face the arriving officers. They were armed, ready for a confrontation. Their eyes scanned the alley as they began yelling, barking orders to one another, their presence a reminder of everything she tried to avoid. "Step away from him," shouted a tall officer, pointing his gun toward Parker, who had made his way closer to Marissa, panic still etched on his face. "Wait, it's not like that," Marissa called out, raising her hands. "He needs help. He's not a criminal." The officers exchanged glances, uncertain. One in particular, a stocky woman with steely eyes, approached cautiously. "What's happening here?" Parker looked torn between pleading and panicking. "We're just looking for answers. I'm not who they think I am. Please, listen to him," Marissa added, feeling a surge of empathy. "He's in trouble," and that guy, she pointed into the darkness, but the man was gone. "He was going to hurt us." "Ma'am, back away from him," the officer instructed sharply, moving closer to Parker. "Just give me a moment," Marissa begged. "He's telling the truth. We need to get out of here." The stocky officer raised an eyebrow, assessing the frantic scene, the flickering lights, the tension thickening like a storm cloud over them. "What truth, exactly?" Marissa shook her head, her chest tightening. "I don't know. But he's mixed up in something big, something dangerous." As she spoke, a flash of movement caught her eye at the far end of the alley. The man's silhouette reappeared, dark against the flashing lights, leaning casually against a wall, arms crossed. He observed the unfolding chaos with slight amusement. "No!" Parker shouted, eyes wild. "Keep him out of this." The officers, still uncertain, hesitated. The air was thick with palpable fear and suspicion. "You both need to cooperate," the tall officer said, tension in her voice. "We need to get you to safety. We can sort this out suddenly." A low hum filled the alley, rising into an ominous drone. Marissa turned her head sharply to see a black SUV creeping down the street. The vehicle blocked the escape route, engine growling. "Move back!" the officer yelled, gripping her weapon tightly. Marissa's heart raced. What kind of danger were they really in? The man in the coat remained relaxed, but the sense of dread was suffocating. The SUV stopped, and the passenger door swung open, revealing another shadowy figure, tall, menacing. "Marissa!" Parker's voice trembled. "Run!" But the warning had barely escaped his lips when shouts erupted from the officers. "Get down! Get down!" Bullets ricocheted off the ground, sending shards of concrete exploding in the air. Marissa dove to the side instinctively, adrenaline sparking terror through her veins. She glanced back at Parker, his eyes wide with fear. "Parker!" she cried, reaching out to him, but his face shifted from shock to determination, and in that fleeting moment, Marissa saw something change, a flicker of strength just beneath his fear. Then, as quickly as it started, everything plunged into confusion. The sirens were deafening, and the chaos enveloped her completely. What had they stumbled into? And as the weight of danger pressed down on her, Marissa realized she was at the center of something much darker, something that was just beginning to unfold. In the midst of flashing lights and loud shouts, one thought pierced through her panic. They were all in deep water now, and what would surface next could either save them or bury them all alive. What did Parker know that could change the entire game? As the darkness crept closer, Marissa understood that survival would mean confronting not just the shadows, but the horrifying truth about Parker himself. Marissa's heart raced as she pushed herself off the cold pavement. The chaos had erupted around her, each shout from the officers mixing with the distant sound of sirens. Every instinct told her to run, to find safety, but she felt tethered to Parker, who was still facing the wall where that dreadful man had lurked. "Stay down!" one officer yelled, moving cautiously toward them, guns still trained on the shadows. Panic flickered in his eyes, a reflection of the chaos surrounding them, but Marissa wasn't sure if it was directed at Parker or the unseen threat. "Come on, let us go," she urged Parker, her voice trembling as she extended her hand toward him. Sweat trickled down her back as she scanned the area, searching for any sign of the man in the dark coat, the one who seemed to be orchestrating this nightmare. Parker hesitated, bolting between indecision and fear. "What if they don't believe us?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Marissa shook her head, a pang of determination shooting through her. "We can't stay here. They'll think we're part of this." Before Parker could respond, the darkness at the far end of the alley shifted. Something glinted in the shadows, a flash of metal, maybe a weapon. The officer paused, sensing impending danger. He shouted, "Move back. I need backup." Marissa's fear morphed into urgency. She grabbed Parker's wrist, yanking him toward her. "Trust me. We can't let them take us." In a surge, they broke free from the grasp of chaos, legs sprinting as adrenaline coursed through their veins. Marissa's sneakers slapped against the concrete, fear pushing her forward. Behind them, shouts transformed into screams, punctuated by the sound of rapid gunfire. "Go! To the street!" she shouted over her shoulder. She reached for the railing of a nearby staircase, instinctively knowing it would lead them to safety. But Parker stumbled, the weight of anxiety slowing him down. "Marissa!" he cried out, agony lacing his voice. "I can't just move," she urged, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She yanked him along, never looking back, until they finally reached the staircase. Descending the steps felt like time had slowed. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, and she glanced back, terrified of what might be pursuing them. The air was thicker down below, smelling of damp earth and desperation. "Are you okay?" she asked, brushing Parker's hair back from his sweaty forehead. He nodded, but she could see the fear etched into his features. I don't know what's happening," he stammered. "I needed to tell you everything. They're after me because of what I know." "What do you know?" Marissa felt a lump in her throat, her hands trembling both from fear and the boiling urgency of the moment. "We need to get out of here." Before he could answer, a voice from above rumbled down the stairs. Where did they go? It was one of the officers, a semblance of authority clinging to their tone. Marissa's heart stopped. They'd been discovered. "Quick! This way!" Parker grabbed her arm, leading her deeper into a narrow corridor filled with shadows that seemed to come alive, twisting with every flicker of the lights overhead. As they hastily twisted around a corner, Parker halted, taking a quick breath. "Marissa, listen. I'm not who you think I am. I was trying to protect you, but..." His voice faded, the panic in his eyes growing. "What?" she pressed, fear and urgency boiling over. "What are you hiding?" "They want something I have," Parker said, swallowing hard. "Something dangerous. I thought if I got close to you, I could keep you safe." But now a crash shook the alleyway above, followed by hurried footsteps. Cold dread washed over Marissa. "What exactly do you have?" "No time." He shot back as they heard voices, loud and angry. "We have to keep moving." Marissa struggled to process this new reality, her mind racing. They were entangled in a web far beyond their control. With shadows closing in, Parker clenched her hand tightly. "I need you to trust me. I know a way out, but I need you to believe what I say from now on." Just then, the air shifted, a heavy presence creeping down the corridor. Marissa turned, her pulse surging with panic. There, emerging from the darkness, was the man in the coat. His face split into a sinister grin as he took a step closer, his eyes locked onto Parker. "Did you really think you could escape?" Marissa's breath hitched, every muscle in her body screamed to flee. The truth hovered in the air, and with it the terrifying realization that they had opened a door that would not close easily. What darkness awaited them on the other side? As Parker's grip tightened, she knew they were about to find out. Parker's eyes widened, sheer terror etching deep lines across his face. Marissa felt the heat of panic coursing through them, as if it were a living thing wrapping around her heart. She took a step back, ready to run, but Parker's grip held her firm. "Stay behind me," he whispered, his voice shaking but resolute. The sinister man stepped closer, shadows playing across his grin, making him look like a predator stalking its prey. "Why so frightened, dear Parker?" His voice dripped with mockery, sending chills down Marissa's spine. "Haven't you come to appreciate our little game?" "What game?" Parker breathed, barely holding on to composure. "I didn't agree to anything." "Oh, but you did. The moment you picked up that file." The man tilted his head, inches away from them now. "You thought it was just a bit of information, didn't you? Something juicy to hold over their heads? But now it's your death sentence and hers, too." Marissa felt the blood drain from her face. "What file?" she stammered. "What are you talking about?" This was spiraling into madness. Her mind raced with questions, each one heavier than the last. "Does it matter?" The man scoffed, his eyes reflecting a cruel delight. "Your little friend is now part of something much bigger than either of you can handle. You really shouldn't have gotten involved." "Shut up." Parker's voice sliced through the tension, angry and fierce. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I think I do, Parker, but denial is a comforting thing, isn't it?" The man's grin widened, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too predatory. "You're in deep now, both of you." With a swift movement, the figure lunged forward, a blur of darkness and malice. Marissa's instincts kicked in. "Parker, move!" she screamed, shoving him to the side as she dodged the man's outstretched hand. They darted back down the corridor, the harsh light flickering behind them. Each step felt like a countdown, a race against death itself. She could hear the man's footsteps echoing behind them, relentless and heavy. "What do we do?" Parker yelled, breathless. "I don't know." Marissa shot back, desperation clawing at her throat. "Just keep running." They turned hard, the corridor narrowing until it opened into a wide room filled with machinery and shadows. It reeked of oil and rust. A series of enormous pipes creaked ominously above them. They slowed for a moment, panting, scanning for anything they could use as a weapon or a shield. "Over there." Parker pointed to a stack of metal crates. "We can hide." But before they could reach them, the man appeared again, his figure looming in the doorway like an executioner come to collect his debt. "You think you can hide?" he taunted, stepping into the glow of a flickering bulb. "You're just delaying the inevitable. Don't you get it?" Parker shouted, anger spilling over. "You're just a coward hiding behind threats." "What an amusing sentiment," the man cooed mockingly. "But you're about to learn how wrong you are." Marissa's heart raced as a wild idea sparked in her mind. "Parker, can you stall him?" "What?" He turned to her, eyes wide. "Just trust me," she urged, though fear gripped her. "I'll find something." As Parker began to speak, motivated by urgency, Marissa crept away, moving silently toward the darkness. Intent on finding anything to turn the tide, she fumbled her way around the crate edges, adrenaline coursing through. A glint caught her eye. A heavy metal wrench lay discarded amidst the clutter. She grabbed it, heart thumping in her chest, steeling herself to return when suddenly a loud bang erupted, shaking the very ground beneath her feet. The man's voice shifted, slashing through the chaos. "Now, let us see if you can survive without your precious little secret." Marissa froze, dread filtering through her veins. Had he found Parker? She could barely breathe, panic closing like a vice. What would happen if she failed? What if the file, whatever it contained, could bring them both down? Desperation gripping her, she clutched the wrench tightly, uncertainty flooding her thoughts. The moment she stepped out of the shadows, she had to make a choice: fight or run. The sound of scuffling echoed ahead, and Parker's voice grew faint. "Marissa, I need you." In that instant, something shifted inside her. Whatever was on the line, she wouldn't let it take him. With new resolve, she stepped out of hiding, the weight of the wrench grounding her as she prepared to face the darkness. What would she find when she stepped into the unknown? And would she get to Parker before it was too late? The answer loomed ahead, thick with uncertainty and fear. Marissa's heart thundered in her chest as she glared down the narrow corridor, her grip tightening around the wrench. Moments stretched long, and every tick of the silence echoed her doubt. Parker needed her. She inhaled sharply, stepping forward. The man was still relentless, inching closer, smug. "What a brave little mouse," he taunted, shadows swirling around him, feeding his bravado. "Leave him alone," Marissa shouted, her voice steady despite the terror bubbling beneath the surface. The man chuckled, confidence radiating from him. "Does the little girl think she can save the mouse?" "You're nothing without him," he sneered. Something ignited inside Marissa, igniting a fire against the fear. "I'm not nothing," she spat, advancing with the wrench leveled towards him. "You should think twice before underestimating me or Parker." The man faltered, taken aback by her audacity. For just a moment, uncertainty replaced the arrogance. "You think it's all a game, don't you?" he hissed, fury flickering. Before she could blink, he lunged at her, and she swung the wrench with all her might, connecting with a sickening thud against his shoulder. He yelled, stumbling back, grasping at the pain blooming where the metal had bitten into flesh. "Parker!" she yelled, her voice an instinctual plea. "Get out!" She could see him through the chaos, but he was still tangled in the fight, grappling with pain and frustration on his face. The man's arrogance melted, replaced by an animalistic fury. "You've made a mistake," he growled, rushing her again, but Marissa sidestepped, relying on instinct as he barreled past her. "Parker. Run!" she shouted, aware the man was turning to redirect his anger toward Parker now. Without hesitation, Parker darted toward the stacks of crates. Adrenaline fueled his movements, yet as the man surged forward, Marissa's heart raced even faster. "I'm not letting him hurt you," she declared, stepping into the line of fire between Parker and the approaching threat. "Watch and learn, little girl," he dismissed, reaching for Parker. Time felt like it had slowed. Every second pulsed with urgency as she raised the wrench again, heart pounding, feeling its weight seep into her resolve. Just as he lunged for Parker, she swung the wrench again, catching his arm before he could grab Parker. The man howled, staggering back just as Parker ducked and swerved, moving past Marissa into what would be their only chance for escape. "Now!" she yelled. Both of them shot toward the exit as the man's laughter morphed into rage, echoing through the chaotic remnants of their game. Marissa dared not look back, shoving open a heavy door that led to a staircase spiraling upward. With Parker by her side, they sprinted up, desperation lifting them faster with each step. "Where do we go?" Parker strained, breathless. "Just keep running," she panted, pushing purely on adrenaline. "I don't know, just anywhere but here." They burst through the door at the top of the stairs, spilling into fresh air, the daylight blinding and warm after the cold darkness they'd just escaped. Marissa felt the sun kiss her skin, a welcome embrace amidst the chaos, but they weren't safe yet. The parking lot sprawled ahead, filled with the distant whirring of cars and a stream of people moving about, oblivious to their turmoil. "We need a car," Parker said, scanning the area. "Not just any car," she replied, her mind racing. "We need to call the police. Report everything." "I don't think that guy will let us," Parker grimaced, casting quick glances around them. "There." Marissa pointed. A blue sedan with shiny paint stood just a few spots down. There was no time to hesitate. "Let us go." They sprinted towards it, but she could feel eyes bearing into them, the weight of uncertainty and urgency tugging at her senses. "Marissa!" Parker shouted, a voice rising above the noise. They glanced back, and there he stood, the man in the coat, emerging like a vengeful shadow from the entrance they escaped. "Get in!" Marissa screamed, wrenching open the car door and diving inside. Parker crawled in beside her, heart racing. But the man was fast, already at the driver's side, the steely determination lit in his eyes. "Down!" she yelled as the man lunged for the door, and Marissa grabbed the gear shift, shoving it backwards. With a feral instinct, she slammed the keys in the ignition and turned, firing the engine alive just as the man pulled the car door wide, attempting to wrench it from her grip. "Drive!" Parker shouted, but Marissa sent the car crashing forward, throwing them back against their seats, momentum pushing the chaos away. The parking lot whirled past as they shot out onto the open road, faster and faster, their escape ripping the remnants of fear from behind them. Marissa's pulse raced, urgency pulsating through the air. The world felt both alive and surreal, and uncertainty loomed large ahead. "Where do we go?" Parker asked, voice cracking with a mix of fear and relief. "Anywhere just away." With their hearts still pounding, they drove farther, the sun illuminating paths they had yet to discover and even darker truths that remained hidden. As the tension began to ease, a realization settled heavily, and Marissa glanced over at Parker, still breathing hard, panic still lingering in his eyes. "What was in that file?" she asked, her voice firm that he took a steadying breath, the weight of his reality merging with hers. "The truth," he said quietly, gaze forward, as if the words alone could unlock doors of safety or perhaps doom them further. They both knew, they were not yet free. The road ahead carried shadows, but it also held the promise of a chance to reclaim the pieces of their unraveling lives. Marissa drove on, steering into the unknown, gripping the wheel tighter, knowing she had to take control. They'd face everything together, but first, survival meant evading the darkness that pursued them. Nobody was ever truly safe, but as long as they had each other, they might just find a way through. What awaited next lay beyond the horizon, as the wind whipped through their hair, enveloping them in a moment of fierce freedom, the beginning of their new journey. But before they could ponder what lay ahead, their phones buzzed in unison, pulling at threads of connection to a world still spinning. Marissa met Parker's eyes. They had fought the shadows and won, at least for now, but she knew their battle wasn't over. Secrets would always surface, and the truth, as heavy as it was a path they were destined to walk. What would come next would shape them beyond what either could anticipate, and in that looming uncertainty, the only promise they had was one another. "Hold on," she whispered, feeling the weight of the future settle like a cloak around them. And as they drove into the unknown, one thing lingered: hope might just do what survival never could. It might keep them alive. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just went down. And don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your participation makes all the difference. Let us keep this community growing together.